It's been called the blizzard of the century, and parts of North America are badly affected. New York State is bearing the brunt of the storm. At least 62 lives have been lost so far as officials do their best to respond. Extreme winter storms affecting much of North America have now claimed the lives of at least 62 people. US officials are calling it the blizzard of the century, with an extra 9 inches of snow expected during the day in New York State, where the city of Buffalo has borne the brunt of the Arctic conditions. The storm has affected a vast area from Canada in the north down through the US and even reaching Mexico. President Biden has approved emergency measures allowing financial support for New York State. Well, our correspondent Neda Tawfik is in New York with the latest for us.
Yeah, Hugh, the scenes have been shocking, the stories harrowing. Communities across the United States completely frozen over as far south as Florida, and many never getting home for the holidays. And as you mentioned, the city of Buffalo has been the worst affected and is under more than 4 feet of snow. And there, the conditions were so treacherous that ambulances and basic services are just starting back up.
Buried by record snowfall, Buffalo has only begun to dig itself out. Up until now, near whiteout conditions and hurricane-force winds created a life-threatening situation, paralyzing emergency response efforts and trapping vehicles along the roadways. This once-in-a-lifetime blizzard has claimed the lives of at least 28 people here during the holiday weekend. The fear now is that more fatalities will be uncovered by the melting snow. The situation is still dire. Thousands are without power, and a driving ban remains in place. At grocery stores, reopening for the first time since the storm hit, people queued up to stock up on much-needed essentials and food. Authorities pleaded with people to be careful as they slowly open up the city over the next several days.
There's a lot of roads that are completely blocked right now that have no access whatsoever. And people are trying to drive on these roads or trying to get into these neighborhoods, and they can't. Please, please, you heard the mayor beg, I'm begging, stay home.
In other parts of the country, the thawing out after the deep freeze has led to a new set of issues. In Montana, which recorded temperatures as frigid as -45 degrees Celsius, the sudden warming created flash flooding. In the small town of Fishtail, massive chunks of ice blocked roads and covered people's yards.
That shift in temperature caused ice to melt very quickly, and it just released all of the ice off of the West Rosebud, causing kind of like a tidal wave.
This storm is truly unprecedented in scope, stretching from Canada to Mexico and affecting 60% of the U.S. population. President Joe Biden has promised the full force of the federal government to help those most affected. And while the bad weather has already started to ease, problems will likely persist for days.
This is a holiday season no one will soon forget. It should have been a time for cheer. Instead, the bomb Cyclone has brought misery. Neda Tawfik, BBC News, New York.
All of this extreme cold weather affecting North America and, of course, the conditions in many parts of Britain, which we saw before Christmas, would seem to go against the pattern of global warming. That's according to some observers, at least. What is the true picture? Here's our climate editor, Justin Rowlatt, with more details. Justin.
Thanks, Hugh. Well, we've certainly seen some very dramatic weather in the US as part of this bomb cyclone. So what's happening? Well, a bomb cyclone is a term used to describe rapidly deepening area of low pressure. This low pressure draws in moist air, which rises as it gets higher. It freezes, bringing snow and strong winds. These bomb cyclones are actually fairly common. We get them once or twice a year here in the UK. So is our warming climate a factor?
The warmer the atmosphere is, the more moisture it can hold. So when we get weather events like this, we're going to get much more precipitation falling, either as rain and in this case, in particular, as snowfall.
Another key factor is the jet stream. That's the band of fast-moving air that circles the Arctic tens of thousands of feet above our heads and shapes the weather systems we experience. As you can see, it's been looping deep down into the US, bringing that low pressure with it. Now, some scientists believe climate change is making the jet stream more prone to these dips, but the evidence is not clear on this. What is clear is that this cold snap is an exception. Winter is the fastest warming season in the US, with fewer very cold days, and it comes against a background of steadily increasing average world temperatures. Just look at that unfolding there. And if you go to the end of the graph, look at this. The last 7 years are the hottest 7 years ever recorded, and 2022 will continue that trend. It's expected to be the 4th or 5th hottest year ever. The UK had an even more dramatic year. Remember the wildfires that followed those scorching temperatures this summer? Well, we are expecting 2022 to have been the hottest year ever recorded in the UK. Hugh.
More than 60 people have now died in a snowstorm that has hit huge areas of America, leaving thousands of people stranded in cars and in homes without power. While the worst of the weather seems to have passed for now, more snow is forecast in the coming days. From the US, our correspondent Robert Moore has the latest.
The great winter storm of the Christmas weekend hit Buffalo the hardest. Hundreds of drivers had to abandon their vehicles and try and make it to safety on their own. This city in upstate New York is familiar with heavy snowfalls. But this was on a scale not seen for many years. Police and emergency workers were simply not able to reach some of those most in need. And the death toll has continued to rise. Some bodies are still being found in stranded cars, others in snowdrifts.
As the snow begins to get moved, and as we see in the week when the snow starts to melt, we fully expect that we are going to recover more bodies. We're pretty certain that there's going to be more deaths uncovered.
In a few cases, looting broke out, with those responsible confident the police wouldn't have the resources to be able to respond.
Did you buy it? I'm trying to buy it. All right, put it back. Put everything back. Come on.
Leaving this store owner trying to defend his business, even as the storm was raging outside.
Looting, when people are losing their lives in this harsh winter storm, is just absolutely reprehensible. I don't know how these people can even live with themselves, how they can look at themselves in the mirror. They are the lowest of the low.
At its peak, this bomb cyclone, as the weather pattern was called, impacted nearly half of America on the very weekend when tens of millions of people were trying to gather for the holidays. It led to thousands of flight cancellations and continuing travel chaos, with airlines still struggling to get passengers to their destinations. On the Great Lakes, the icy winds certainly produced some stunning ice and snow formations. But this will be remembered as the storm that left chaos in its wake and disrupted the plans of much of the nation. Robert Moore, ITV News, Washington.